Preface. In the quiet hours of dawn, beneath the shade of an ancient plane tree, a philosopher reflects on the passage of time, the fleeting moments of life, and the ever-turning wheel of thought. Echoes Beneath the Stoa invites us into the heart of ancient Athens, where wisdom and contemplation dance through the daily rhythms of existence. This story, told through the gentle musings of a philosopher who has seen many seasons come and go, is a meditation on the nature of knowledge, the beauty of stillness, and the eternal questions that linger in the spaces between words. Each chapter unfolds like the chapters of a life well lived, one where the search for meaning is not a pursuit of certainty, but a quiet unfolding of thought, in its many shapes and forms. From the first light of morning, through the midday discourse of young minds, to the evening of laughter shared among friends, we are invited to witness the philosopher's journey, not as a quest for answers, but as an exploration of the questions themselves. In these pages, the sacred act of thinking is not just a mental exercise, but a way of being in the world, a way of listening to the soft breath of life as it unfolds around us. The wisdom contained within this story is not merely intellectual, it is rooted in the body, the senses, and the timeless beauty of the natural world. As the philosopher reflects on the simplicity of a fig dropped from a tree, the taste of wine, the touch of the sun on his skin, we are reminded that the pursuit of knowledge is inseparable from the experience of living. So, with each word, let us pause, listen, and breathe in the quiet joy of thought. And perhaps, in the spaces between, we will find the echoes of our own lives, unfolding in the gentle embrace of time. Echoes Beneath the Stoa, Ancient Greece. Chapter 1. Morning. The morning finds me, as it always does, beneath the great plane tree in the outer courtyard, where dappled light falls like honey upon the stones. I am old now, older than the marble steps that lead to the academy, older than many of the thoughts that flutter like birds through the minds of young men. My bones creak like the olive trees in winter wind, yet my spirit is quiet, soothed by the soft breath of dawn. The scent of warm bread drifts from the kitchen, mingling with the sharp fragrance of rosemary and thyme growing in the pots by the wall. A clay cup rests in my hands, cradling a bitter herbal tea steeped with mint and wild mountain sage. Steam curls into the morning air like a prayer rising to Olympus. The streets beyond the garden are not yet loud with footsteps or barter. Only the distant clatter of a cartwheel and the bleat of a restless goat announce that the city of Athens is beginning to stir. I sit cross-legged on the worn stone bench, wrapped in my amation, and listen to the gentle rustle of laurel leaves, the cooing of doves, the hush of breeze against my cheek. These are the hours I love most, when the world is not yet asking questions, and I do not yet feel the need to answer them. I watch the young acolytes preparing scrolls for the day, their fingers smudged with ink, their brows furrowed in quiet concentration. They remind me of myself, long ago, when I first arrived in the city wide-eyed and bursting with curiosity. I had come in search of wisdom and found that the search itself was the wisdom. Anaxagoras used to say that morning light holds the clarity of reason. I often wonder whether reason is born in the rising sun, or if we only imagine so because it grants us a new beginning each day. Regardless, I find my thoughts more fluid in this light, as though the soul, too, stretches and awakens. A young boy passes me, a scroll under one arm and figs in his hand. He smiles, a quick, shy thing, and I return it. He will likely ask me about justice later, or the nature of the soul, or why the stars do not fall from the heavens. And I will tell him, we know so little, but in knowing this, we begin to know much. The fig tree beside the wall drops a fruit. It thuds softly on the dry earth, a gentle punctuation in the quiet morning. I think often about the simplicity of such moments. The gods, if they watch us, must find them amusing, how we dress up truths in words, when nature says them with such clarity. The light shifts, gold deepening into amber, and I rise slowly, joints murmuring their protest. My steps are careful, each one a lesson in gratitude. I pause before the little stone basin near the door, dipping my fingers into the cool water. A ritual, yes, but also a reminder that all thought begins with stillness. Inside, I will speak of ethics and form, of virtue and knowledge, of that which is changeless amidst change. But for now, I allow myself this breath, this silence, this gentle unfolding of day. There is no urgency here. No final answer to reach. Only the slow weaving of thought with time, and the quiet joy of watching light find its way into the corners of the world. And so begins the day, not with proclamations or thunder, but with a cup of tea, the fall of a fig, and the touch of sun on aging skin. Chapter 2, The Shape of Thought. By midday, the courtyard is humming. Not with noise, but with the quiet tension of inquiry, the invisible thread that connects the minds gathered here. I sit in the shade of the Stoa, where fluted columns cast long shadows like sundials of thought, and my students settle cross-legged on cool marble, scrolls clutched, eyes lifted. But before they speak, I am already adrift. Thought has its own terrain. It rolls and dips, like the hills outside the city, uneven and unpredictable. Sometimes it flows gently, as a stream does when kissed by spring rain. Other times it falters, eddies, becomes thick with sediment. Today, my thoughts are slow, molasses thick, stretching languidly through memory and meaning. One of the boys, Thales, full of fire, asks me what I think the soul is made of. I answer slowly, letting my words walk instead of run. The soul, I say, is not made. It is discovered. Not in one place, but across the years, in laughter, in grief, in stillness. It is the shape your life makes when you are not looking. They write that down. I can hear the scratch of styluses on wax and the faint gasp of surprise from one of the younger students. But I do not speak to impress. I speak because the silence between us asks for shape. Behind me, pigeons flutter along the roofline, their wings clapping softly. Beyond them, the blue of the sky is endless. My eyes drift upward, as they often do when I think. The heavens seem to invite wondering. Why do we search upward when we ask what is within? Perhaps the gods knew we needed distance to reflect. My thoughts turn inward. I remember my youth, when I too had sat beneath this very stoa, barefoot and eager, interrupting my master with questions before his sentences had time to settle. He would smile, tired, amused, and remind me that philosophy was not a hunt for answers but a garden tended slowly, season by season. In that garden, I have spent a lifetime. Tending, trimming, sometimes tearing up weeds of certainty to plant doubt. The older I grow, the more I find comfort not in conclusions, but in questions that breathe. Someone asks about justice, and I speak of balance, not in laws, but in hearts. Of fairness that flows not from rules but from empathy, from walking beside another and sharing the weight of their sorrow. They nod, not understanding fully, and that is enough. True understanding ripens slowly. A breeze rolls through the colonnade, lifting the hem of my robe and carrying with it the scent of lavender from the fields beyond the city walls. For a moment, I close my eyes. And in that darkness, I see not nothing, but everything. The pulse of thought. The hush before wisdom. The calm that comes when one stops grasping. They will ask me later for a list of virtues, for rules of conduct, for diagrams and arguments. But here, in this hour where the sun is neither harsh nor low, I want only to offer stillness. I want them to know that the shape of thought is not straight. It spirals. It returns. It dances. And most beautifully, it pauses. I end the lesson not with a declaration, but with a question: what do you know to be true, that you have never been taught? They stare, blinking, and I rise without waiting for their replies. The stones beneath my sandals are warm, and I walk slowly through the colonnade. I trail my fingers along the smooth marble columns, as if the texture of the world might anchor me. In a way, it does. I am not only a mind. I am also hands, breath, skin, and earth. Philosophy, when it is good, remembers the body too. And so I walk, not away from thought, but deeper into it. Into the spaces between words, into the curve of a question still forming. I have learned much, and forgotten more. But I carry this with me always, that to think gently is to live gently. And in a world of noise, that gentleness is a kind of quiet revolution. Chapter 3, The Evening of Laughter. The sun dipped low behind the hills when I arrived, its fading light stretched across the sky in hues of honey and wine. The house of Callias, our generous host, stood open to the breeze, with tall doors thrown wide to the gathering night. Olive oil lamps were already lit, their golden flames flickering like thoughts just formed, casting long shadows on frescoed walls that told the stories of gods and men. I stepped inside, greeted by warmth, not just of hearth, but of voices and familiar faces. There was Plato, already laughing with his mouth full of pomegranate seeds, and Melibæus the harpist, tuning his lyre with the slow grace of a man who knows time will wait for music. The scent of roasted lamb and spiced honey carried through the atrium, mingling with myrrh and the soft tang of fermented grapes. A servant, smiling and silent, took my amation, and I moved with slow steps toward the inner garden where cushions had been arranged in a semicircle beneath a vine-draped pergola. Here, conversation would flower, as it always did, not with formality, but with the fluid ease of those who knew one another's silences as well as their speech. We reclined, and wine was poured, mixed with water, for none of us sought foolishness, only the soft unwinding of the day. The amphora gleamed as it passed from hand to hand, and when my turn came, I drank slowly, letting the liquid linger on my tongue like a memory. Dry and rich, with notes of sun-baked soil and summer air. "Tell us," Callias said, eyes shining, "what is the most beautiful lie you've ever believed?" A ripple of laughter followed. Some responded with jest, tales of sirens, or dreams of impossible loves. Others grew more quiet, speaking of ambition, or youth, or gods who once seemed close. When it came to me, I smiled and answered, "That wisdom, once found, stays with you." More laughter, but kind, and I could see in their eyes they understood. The food came in waves, figs drizzled with honey, olives bursting with brine, bread still warm from the oven. We ate with the comfort of those who have long known each other's hungers, and do not judge them. Between bites, ideas bloomed, of virtue and friendship, of politics and pleasure, of whether beauty needs purpose, or exists simply to be seen. Melibæus plucked at his lyre, and the strings wove threads of sound into the night. His song was not for performance, but presence, a gentle offering to the air we all shared. Someone began to sing with him, low and steady, and the rest of us leaned back, our bellies full, our thoughts uncoiled like the spirals of the Ionian columns beyond the garden wall. I watched the stars rise as they always do, blinking into view one by one like old friends taking their seats. The moon hung silver above the rooftops, and a cicada's song whispered from the trees. There was peace here, true peace, not the kind that is enforced or bought, but the kind that arrives when laughter and stillness share the same breath. Later, a boy recited poetry. His voice trembled at first, but grew as we listened. He spoke of longing and of sea voyages, of homesickness and the scent of cedar wood. When he finished, no one clapped, but all were quiet, that kind of quiet that means we have been moved. As the evening deepened, we lay more fully into our cushions, the air soft and scented with jasmine. Conversations thinned, like rivers returning to the sea. Some dozed. Others murmured. I sat, watching the oil lamp near me flicker low, and felt a strange, sweet ache. For nights like these are rare and fragile, woven from trust, truth, and just the right amount of wine. They are not remembered for their brilliance, but for their gentleness. Not for what was said, but for what was shared. And so I closed my eyes, not in sleep, but in quiet, thanks. For friendship. For laughter. For thoughts softened by flame and song. The gods, I thought, if they still watch us, must pause on such nights. Must lean in, too, to hear what we say when we are finally ourselves. Chapter 4, When the Lamps Burn Low. The hour is late now. The hush of night rests gently on the city, like a soft hand placed upon the brow of a fevered child. The world, once teeming with voices, has drawn inward. The streets lie empty, moonlit and still, and even the dogs do not bark. From my seat near the window, I can see the Acropolis rising in silhouette, majestic, eternal, yet softened by distance and darkness. There is a silence in Athens that comes only at this hour. It is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper. A kind of listening. As if the stones themselves hold breath, waiting. I sit alone, wrapped in my woolen robe, cradling a cup of cooled wine. The last embers in the hearth glow faintly, pulsing like the heart of the house. I do not stir them. Let them fade, as all things must. I have come to treasure these hours not for sleep, but for their clarity. When the lamps burn low, the soul speaks more freely. I think of the day behind me, and of the many before it. Of words spoken, and unspoken. Of questions asked and left unanswered. I have taught for decades now, watched boys grow into men, watched men become fathers, leaders, philosophers in their own right. Yet I remain here, still learning. Still listening. What a strange thing it is, to live a life of thought. People speak often of wisdom as if it is something to be earned, like silver or land. But wisdom, I think, is more like light reflected in water, beautiful, elusive, and never quite held in the hand. The more we reach, the more we disturb it. The best we can do is to sit still, and let it come. The stars overhead shimmer through the open window, countless and cold. I used to wonder if they could see us, these distant fires in the night sky. If they understood our stories, our sadness, our brief lives flaring and fading like theirs. Now, I no longer ask. It is enough to share the night with them, to know that we exist beneath the same dark dome, companions in the great quiet. My thoughts drift to those I've loved. Some still here. Some long gone. My mother's voice singing to the dawn. The friend who died too young at sea. The student whose laughter I still hear echoing in the atrium where he once recited poetry. They are all still with me, folded gently into the pages of my memory. Not lost. Only changed. I take comfort in this, that nothing truly precious vanishes. It becomes part of the whole. A glance. A smell. A phrase remembered at the right moment. Life, I have found, is less about permanence than presence. And presence, when given freely, leaves a trace. I think, too, of death, but not with fear. I have watched many go. Some peacefully. Some resisting. But always, there is a moment of stillness at the end, as if the world sighs and receives them. I hope, when my time comes, it is in such a moment. With no bitterness. Only breath. Only silence. For now, I am here. Alive. Awake. A man grown old, not weary. My mind still wanders like a curious child, and my heart still lifts at the scent of jasmine or the touch of morning sun on stone. If this is not joy, then joy is poorly understood. The oil in the lamp beside me sputters. Its flame dances once more, then folds inward, leaving behind a faint wisp of smoke. I watch it rise and vanish into the dark. The room dims, but I do not mind. I know the shape of it by heart. I close my eyes, not in sleep, but in deep rest. The kind that comes when a life, though imperfect, has been lived in truth. I do not need final answers. I only need this quiet, this breath, this moment. Outside, the wind moves gently through the cypress trees. The city sleeps. And I, the old philosopher, sit alone in the soft cradle of the night, at peace with the questions that remain.